So one thing that a lot of missionaries have issues with is the difference between ningen and ninjin. And in order to fully understand this, you can also say things like jinrui, things like that. Jinrui means like peoples, and jin, like America jin, is American person. So jin sometimes means person, and ningen means man, like a person, a human. Ninjin, which kind of sounds like it might mean person or man, it actually means carrot. And so there's a lot of missionaries who confuse the two, and they'll say something like, oh, Adam was the first carrot on the earth, or things like that. And so that's a pretty funny mistake. But actually, this wasn't me, and it wasn't on my mission, but I volunteered at the MTC about a month ago. And as there were two sister missionaries, as we were talking, I mentioned to one of them, like they were asking me about prayer, and they said, well, what kind of things can you pray for? And I just kind of said, well, yeah, I've been thinking recently about like kind of marriage. I've been dating this girl for a while, so I've kind of been thinking about marriage, about when I should marry her or if I should marry her, kind of things like that. And they didn't know the word for marriage. They didn't know the word kekkon. So I said, kekkon ni tsuite saikin yoku kagaete imasu yo, yoku inotte imasu yo. And they're like, oh yeah, okay, okay. And one of the sisters just looked at me and said, in the most sincere voice she could, watashi mo, like me too. And I just started laughing so hard. And she was so embarrassed when she finally figured it out, that she had said that she'd been praying about getting married. So if you don't know, it's not always the greatest idea to agree with somebody. When I was in Yonago, there was a typhoon that came through, and it actually was so bad that the bishop canceled church that Sunday. But we decided that we were going to go to church anyway, because we wanted to make sure that no one else actually went to church. And so we rode our bikes all the way to the church through this typhoon, and no one else was out on the streets, and we could hear whistling in the air, just as just this air was just passing through the buildings. It was kind of scary. It was raining really, really, really hard, and it was kind of fun, but at the same time, like, we kind of felt like we were gonna die. But yeah, I did have a squid ink pasta one time. So it was like it just looked like a black mess of noodles, and like noodles covered in sludge, basically. And it tasted like noodles covered in oil. So yeah, it wasn't exactly the greatest meal, and I'm not sure if I'd recommend it, but I have eaten squid ink like spaghetti, so. I learned how to make milk ramen, I guess. Like, I learned a lot of different kinds of Japanese food, but one of my companions was Japanese, and he made ramen, and he would put in like extra cabbage and some carrots and some different kinds of like meats and stuff to kind of make it more of a soup. But almost right before it was done, he put in a little bit of milk and let it simmer for a second and then pulled it out. And like, that was an amazing flavor. So that's one random skill, I guess, that I learned. I did learn how to go and like identify mushrooms that you can eat with one of our investigators. He took us up to the mountain, and we just went, and we were going through the woods, and we were looking for mushrooms. And so he told us what they looked like, and we were walking around, and we sat down for a second. We hadn't been able to find any, and I kind of looked down and was like, hey, look, mushrooms! And they were just right there, right where we were sitting. So we picked up a bunch, and he showed us a bunch more. Like, we were able to find a bunch, and we took them home, and we never actually ate them, but like, we had a bunch of edible mushrooms. The things you learn.